French authorities have repatriated 16 women and 35 children from detention camps in Syria in areas previously controlled by the so-called Islamic State. Now, most of the women are French citizens and had travelled to ISIS-held territories, often to marry militant fighters. The children are largely the offspring of those relationships. France has come under fire from rights groups for being slow to allow for their return, but authorities argued it should be done on a case-by-case basis. Well, with more on this, we can go straight over now to our international correspondent, Annelise Borges, who's joining us from Paris. Annelise, what more do we know about who was brought back and what will happen to them now?
Well, according to France's anti-terrorism prosecutor, 51 French nationals were brought back on Monday, including 35 children, among them many orphans. They have all been placed under social care. The women, as you mentioned, who are believed to have ties with the so-called Islamic State, having traveled to Syria or Iraq during the years the group was still active, they have all been placed under detention and are under investigation, including 2 non-French nationals that have French children. This is significant, Helena, because, as you said, it represents not only French or European, rather, nationals being brought back to a European system of justice and social care, but mainly because it represents a shift in France's policy. France has been virtually the only European country that has been reluctant in repatriating its nationals from Syria and Iraq, stating that those who have decided to travel to the region and join the so-called Islamic State should pay for their crimes where those crimes were committed. Of course, those trials have proven difficult, not only because proving those crimes is difficult, but also because of the fact that the authority holding these nationals are Kurdish and not internationally recognized. The French government had so far focused mainly on repatriating children, but before this operation, some 200 French children were still in those camps in northeastern Syria, drawing condemnation from international organizations, including the UN, that has said that France had violated the international Convention on the Rights of the Child by exposing these children to inhuman treatment and risking their right to life.
I mean, Annelise, you've been to those camps in northeastern Syria. I remember your reporting there. I mean, you've seen the conditions on the ground for yourself, and we've heard families speaking out about it, denouncing it, also pointing out, that French authorities have been one of the only European states which have appeared reluctant to take back their own nationals, right?
Absolutely. Indeed, living conditions for these women and children were absolutely dire. Dozens of children are believed to have died over the last few years in those camps because of very simple lack of clean water, for example, or the necessary medical support. A French woman has died late last year because there was no insulin to treat her diabetes. And so these families have been pleading with the government to bring these nationals back so that the adults could get access to a fair trial and so that the children would have the right to be children. I spoke to one father whose daughter was not included in this last operation of repatriation. She is still in northeastern Syria, and this father told me that this particular shift in French policy, if indeed it is a shift, a real shift, would reignite his hopes to soon meet his 3-year-old grandchild. Take a listen.
I have a grandson. He's the only one I have. Although I have 4 children, I only have 1 grandchild. He's almost 3.5 years old, and he's not with me. I've never held him in my arms. It's a nightmare that lingers on. It's something we can't see the end of. These repatriations are a light at the end of the tunnel.
Albert also told me that he is in constant touch with his daughter and his grandson over the phone, that they look a lot alike, but these hopes of finally meeting this grandson and for other families to reunite with their loved ones, or at least make sure that they are okay and on European soil, are not confirmed yet, Helena, because we don't know whether or not these operations will continue. The Foreign Affairs Minister here in France has so far not responded to our requests for an interview.